3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to Grounds After Rounds.
They just want a good story. They want to see somebody who is slightly tortured but overcomes that. They want the fall. They want the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which is what this whole week's. I'm not sure if you've picked up on that.
No, I picked up Captain America.
But if
so go ahead.
But if that's the three.
That's good
like
to know.
there's 12 stations in the hero's journey.
Okay.
Some of them intermediate stations.
Is that the purpose of the title of the WADs? Is that the okay?
So it's the call
I had a
to
feeling there was
action.
Okay.
You got to cross the threshold into the underworld.
Mhm.
Once you're in the underworld, you have a road of trials, or a journey, or you have to slay the dragon. Once you slay the dragon, there's a series. Every culture is a little bit different, but they're all the same. You have some sort of fall, like you fall from grace. There's just an absolute, like, in the slaying of the dragon, you either imbue elements of the dragon, you either lose a little bit of yourself. Luke loses his hand, right? There's something that happens to you that leaves you changed forever. You cannot come back from it. And sometimes the hero never comes back and they become the villain.
Right.
That's a common tale. Or in that transformation, they are no longer human anymore. They're no longer of us. They are now special. And in that special, they return.
Because this sounds like Captain America's journey, essentially.
Yeah. This is the atonement. Is you come back, and in that coming back, you start to heal the world, and then in the healing of the world, you've returned. You've returned to the world of the living, and you can remain, and that's it. And and so he passes on the shield.
I noticed. It's funny. I didn't know that was. I saw the story that you played out with the videos and the names. The names of the WADs. I had a feeling there was something more to it. But I could going through it, I could see the story you were telling. Yeah. And so now that makes even more sense.
So so you could do this, you could trace this in just the Captain in each of their individual origin stories, but they're incomplete. Right. And that's why they work. The entire Avengers series traces Tony Stark and Captain America. They are basically running in parallel. Yeah. And it is textbook. They are the two heroes. Yeah. The other ones have their moments and stuff, and they intersperse, and you see, but they don't ever actually finish out. And Tony Stark actually isn't. Oh yeah, he dies. He does. So he does. So his path is the unresolved, but it's not unresolved. But even Pepper says, like, we're good. You can rest now. Yeah. So he's done. And then you got to figure, like, okay, well, how is Captain America going to finish this? He goes back and he returns all the stones, and he does the unresolved with Peggy. And then, and then he comes back and he finishes his job by giving his shield on. Yeah. And so those two, by definition, are the protagonists in the Avengers series, which is unconventional. You can't generally have two protagonists, but it's why they're the two on the Civil War side. Right. It's why they're constantly, one is like, and they ebb and flow, but Captain America was always like, no, like independent, right? That's his fall, or that's his, when he, I almost put the one where when he decides to go save Bucky behind enemy lines, he breaks the rules. Like he always is breaking the rules. He never feels like he is bound by, right? He breaks the rules to try to get into the army. It's always for some more metaphysical, existential value or virtue. Tony Stark's a fucking rule follower. Yeah. Always, always, always.
Which you, like, on the surface, like when you're watching, it's like, well, you feel like he's not, because he's the star. He's the billionaire playboy.
But he always toes the line. Yeah. He's always looking for he is the Republican conservative. Captain America is the liberal Democrat. Like it's phenomenal. Like if you trace, and so they're constantly tracking as the two protagonists. And you could almost say they're protagonist and antagonist, where Tony Stark is the protagonist, because in the end he's very sort of conservative America.
Mhm.
But then you could say that Captain America is our liberal, you can't tell me what to do, go fuck yourself, I won't wear my mask, right? Loose culture, loose society. So they are so ripe for so many like unpacking from a literary psychology, like all kinds of
which is what
schools,
makes it so good is there's so much.
And it's deep, like not deep, like there's depth to, because then you could like they enlist allies, they get help, there's a sense of supernatural, like they have intuition, there's all kinds of stuff that plays at different levels with their journey. I'm a Captain America fan, 100%. Like I just love it. I think the when he goes dark with the beard and the long hair and he just shows up outside the train, like that part of it, the part that he's lived through multiple ages, I think that's like as a character, like his torturedness to it. I let that Tony Stark shares so many of those same elements. He's tortured by his genius, right? The one time when Thanos says like, I know of you, Stark. You're not the only one tortured by genius. Right? Like, or insight, or what is knowledge, tortured by knowledge. I'm like, oh, Thanos,
like he knows so much that he can't like, and it's to the point where it's like, I mean, that's why I think that's why Thanos makes such a good villain is that you totally get it. Like, all right, I get what you're saying.
Still don't think he was wrong.
He's not like you're like, you can't call those people, but you're not wrong in that all these people being here are people are dying anyway, and they're dying because there's not enough.
Right.
It's like, so
he's just writing power inequalities. Change hurts, right? If you really want equality, you got to burn it all down. And Thanos, as a character, embraces that idea. Why he fails, I would say, the second time around is because he doesn't get to go through the same process that he had to go through the first time. He hijacked it. And because he hijacked it, he never had to let go of his ego the second time around, because he never had to lose Gamora. When he lost Gamora, and got the Soul Stone, it was inevitable. It was because at that point he had to let go of himself and who he was to accomplish his mission.
Damn, you're good.
That's it. And the second time around, he hijacked it.
That's why I feel like superhero movies, and good ones, I feel like the Avengers saga definitely like broke the mold when creating like a superhero movie, because I feel like it was so much deeper than so many.
Well, it wasn't just a superhero movie. It was a superhero series.
It was a series.
I mean, seriously, it's what, 11? It's 13, 11 or 13. There's like the hanger-ons with all the little TV shows and stuff, and you can watch them all. But yeah, like those sets of films are, I mean, people teach them in classes. And
well, I feel like when you're talking about like the theater as an art, or like cinema as an art, and so when it comes to like award season, and like
they'll never win
those movies, they'll never get taken seriously because of the subject matter. Which is a bummer, but I think they speak for themselves. The following, the money, the like all the stuff that comes with it. Like they'll never win an award. I mean, the fact that Heath Ledger won best supporting actor posthumously. Thank you. Like for his Joker, and Joker was like, I mean, I think people saw that, and if it didn't have the name Batman and Joker on it, like, but you see, like if this was just a one-off movie that Christopher Nolan created, like I think people still see that transformation that he went through, and like respected that. And so it was the fact that Joker with Joaquin Phoenix was up for a bunch of awards was pretty cool.
Still haven't watched that. I gotta watch that.
It's good.
I'm curious. So I've been listening to a lot of Joseph Campbell. He did in the 80s, year or 2 years before he died. PBS did a series. Joseph Campbell wrote 15 or 20 texts. He was a mythologist. Probably you could argue the greatest mythologist of all time, meaning he went back and looked through hundreds and thousands of cultures and societies across the world since beginning of recorded history, and noticed trends or similarities between cultures' myths and how those myths serve as a function within those societies, and how they share so many similarities by characters, and those characters hitting certain points in their journey to redemption or atonement, or that there's a conflict within a culture. That conflict can only be solved by a certain person. That person must go through some sort of trial by fire, and in that trial by fire emerges different, maybe evolved, whatever, maybe that they've figured out a way to heal or fix their own torture, and now they're able to heal that society and bring us back to balance. It's all about balance. And you could look at the first episodes 4, 5, 6 of Star Wars, and then I would say episodes 7, 8, 9, skip episodes 1, 2, 3. Don't bother. Nobody really.
The first ones I ever saw.
Really?
Yeah.
You watched?
So the first,
so sad.
First Star Wars movie I ever saw
was Phantom Menace.
Was Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, so that's 5.
I know. So it was re-released in theaters back. It was like mid-90s.
Yeah, I know.
Empire Strikes Back.
Late 90s.
Went and watched it. So it was.
I guess
because
it was up. The CGI was updated and all that jazz.
And I'm watching Empire Strikes Back, and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
I also didn't care, so I ended up leaving the movie, which apparently is sacrilege in some circles. So I didn't get it. And then it was a few years later, I guess, episode 1, 2, and 3 came out.
Yeah.
And I went and saw those. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Love that Jar Jar character. So fun. And then I think I told Devong that recently. And then
he just lost his mind.
Oh, he's like, the next day he brought me whatever the first one's called now, A New Hope or.
And yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
I will say Joseph Campbell and George Lucas sought out Joseph. They were friends. And actually this whole PBS episode or series, which you can get on Audible, you can find it on YouTube, is filmed at Lucas or Star Wars Ranch or whatever that's called, there in New Mexico. Anyway,
it's called Lucas Ranch. Yeah.
The idea of a hero's journey, we as individuals do not want to be told that we are on that journey, right? It's very uncomfortable to have somebody show us or unpack it, or like, you know what I mean? Like make it, but the reality is we want our lives to feel or emulate as if I am on the hero's journey. Right. If that kind of makes sense. The reality is none of us actually, the hero is not the character you want to be. Because if you look, the hero has like 3 options. They're either going to die, they're going to become so tortured and go through such a trial that when they come back, they are not relatable to anybody else. Mm-hmm. And then they have to assume a role of primacy. And that is either in like isolation or as like an untouchable, consultant, almost become mythological in their presence, or they become a villain. They become so bad, so alien and disparate from society that society must destroy them and only remember them in martyrdom or in legend and myth. And so it's isolation, pain and torture, or death. Mm-hmm. Those are basically, and you could look at like heroes, real life, quote unquote, I put funny quotes, real life heroes, like alcoholism, they become criminals, they go to jail, right? Like you look at the heroes that, are military heroes or firefight, LEO, and public service type of heroes. The hero's journey is not a pleasant or enjoyable journey.
No.
But what we do is we create a story or a myth around it, and that we want to put ourselves in that journey. So as long as like the narrative around what we're telling ourselves feels like, yes, I've overcome this challenge, and yes, I've learned, and yes, I've become, right? You get to experience all the good parts, but yet still have relative context or relative relation to your life that you're living. Right. And so as a storyteller, that's the power of good media, good storytelling. And so that's where, like, you look at the pictures around the gym, we put up stories of tell the story of your athletes as if they're heroes. Right. Because that's healthy.
Right.
Because right. And so that's what Campbell kind of explores, is the stories themselves are the like epitome of what cultures hold to as like, this is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And you make it a story so that it's separate from you,
right,
so that you can strive towards it, but you don't actually have to live it. And that's a very Aristotelian, poetics of, it's a cathartic event that
mm-hmm.
like it allows you to feel the release of that journey. And so I had a question for you, all that to set it up. And if you look at this week's series of WODs, it's, as we talked about, it's Captain America's. You just finished 3 series, the summer solstice series, parts 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah.
If you think about most plays, most stories have 3 parts. There's exposition, there's rise to conflict and climax.
Yeah.
Part 3 is called denouement or resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, boom, boom. You, in watching it from the outside with summer solstice, you followed, basically, whether you knew it or not, this arc of the hero's journey with the summer solstice.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be interesting. I want you to kind of, with all of that framework now, look at like an athlete that followed all 3, that was in all 3.
Mm-hmm.
What was their journey like? Did you have a plan before you started? What worked, what didn't work? As you kind of think about it now, like, because I already have who I think, like, I'm looking at who, like, where they go now, like, what's next for them? What was the impact? What was some of the challenge? You know what I mean? Like, look at summer solstice, the 3 parts, now with this kind of eye towards the hero's journey.
It's funny. I was thinking about it the other day, because I brought it up to you the other day, trying to figure out like, where do I go after this?
Yeah.
And I was talking
which is a total normal thing, right? Because the journey's over, the story's over. What does the hero do? They only have a couple options.
Yeah.
Isolation, death, or they become a tyrant.
Yeah.
So
I'm only either 3 of those.
That's why the hero's journey is really tough.
And it's funny looking at it too, when I think like the first 5 weeks we're done with the PVC pipe. And someone said to me the other day, they're like, if you were doing like other sessions, maybe I would join, if you did this again, like later in the year and did another like 3-part series, and like, they may skip the first part because, they want to work on, right. It's like, and part of me is like,
what do you think would happen if they did that?
Well, so part of me is thinking like, do I do the 5-week PVC pipe thing again? I was like, it worked really well because it was set up like we were still not allowed in the gym. We ran it virtually. Everyone can gain access to a PVC pipe. I was like, so it just it was just a lot of work. And can I go back to that knowing that we would still have access to the things that we didn't have access to before? Which like for me is a struggle. Even though I saw it and I saw what it did for everybody.
Yeah.
Like I still question like, what if I have access to the gym, would I really make people do PVC pipes for 5 weeks again? And part of me says, nah, if we have we can maybe mess with empty bars and stuff. But the other part of me is like, no, PVC pipes were money.
It's critical.
And we got so many reps in.
So why do you think it would be why is it so critical? If you think about the concept of exposition, if you think we all know who Captain America is, but yet why do we want to go back and watch his origin story again?
I feel like it's, I don't want to necessarily say relatable, but everyone's kind of been in that spot where you see the little guy trying to do whatever he can to get ahead.
Yeah.
And that's scrapping and scraping.
So dare I say cliche, it's not about getting to the PR.
Right.
It's about the journey to get there.
Yeah.
And you can't hijack that journey.
Yeah.
It's just like we talked about with Thanos. The reason why he loses is because he hijacks it.
Yeah.
You have to go back and start with the PVC.
Yeah.
Because the other thing too, this is Glassman's efficacy article. Once you think you've mastered a movement, go back to the basics and do it again.
Yeah.
You're going to find, oh my God, this PVC is still hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will always be hard. It will always be challenging for another reason.
Yeah.
And you can't experience the climax or the denouement, the resolution, if you don't go through the exposition.
Yeah.
And so I would argue you just answered your own question. And now it's egalitarian, it's unifying, it creates a universality of experience for everybody. Like, I don't care if you're a world record holder. Watch them warm up.
Yeah.
They go through they still go through a PVC, a barbell, a lightweight warm up every single time.
Yeah. So I remember when I was my initial answer to that question was like, well, and I was like, well, maybe I'd let you use a barbell because you've done this, and it's been eating at me for the last couple of days because I was just thinking about it yesterday, as well, because I had them use a barbell in the Beast class.
So how do you?
I thought to myself, I was like, half these kids should just have PVC pipes in their hands. Yeah.
So how do you convince? So pick who, and this is not to ice. You were all. Nicole and I were just having this conversation too. She mentioned seeing the sign outside the school, heroes work here, or heroes live here, or something. She expressed it out loud. I feel the exact same way. It feels it's like, ugh, that's weird. Well, the reason it's weird is not because it's minimizing the importance of teachers, but it kind of segregates them out from, well, what about trash collectors? What about the people who deliver Amazon? And even that's not even it.
Yeah.
It's a misuse of this metaphor of the hero.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's basically saying that these people are going to be that we're torturing them for the sake of fixing the rest of society.
Right.
Well, what that means is at some point their end is we're sacrificing them. So it's whether it just doesn't fit.
I feel like that sort of that narrative early on, when it seemed like nice and like we're super appreciative of you, has now, like several months later, created this. Yeah, you're the sacrificial lamb. We're making you go.
So we're going to exploit you.
Yeah.
And so now I don't feel bad saying shut the up and get to work.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you're going to work from home, well, then you should only get half pay. Like all this other stuff that seems to be so quick off people's tongues. Well, it makes sense because we call them heroes.
Yeah.
Right. What do we do with heroes? We spend them. We expend them.
Yeah.
They are our sacrificial entities to save the rest of society.
Because we're like, look, we can't do it. You need to.
You got it. And so now I feel totally comfortable sending you forward to slay that dragon. Yeah. And that's shitty. Yeah. And so we just walked that out. I'm not aware of that immediately. I'm aware of it immediately because I nerd out on this stuff. Yeah. But most people, and it's like, I just don't like that sign. I don't know why, because it's disparate. So in a sense, here we go. We're going to do it that's why I say you get to pick one or two. Like, who is the hero across or heroes across the three series? All to be said, this is an academic exercise, thought experiment. This does not mean this person was the only person that had a great adventure and worked their way through the three series. So, there's my disclaimer.
So I'm gonna pick two.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I back up why these two more than some of the others.
I'm totally putting you in.
So the first,
so much trouble.
The first caveat is to be chosen for this, you had to be in session one with a PVC pipe.
You got to be in all three.
You have to be in all three,
right? It'd be
you have to be in all three.
It'd be like picking, I don't know who dies, or it'd be like picking, some no-name extra from Wakanda as the hero of the Avenger series.
So you have to have done all three.
Or the guy who drives the bus in Sokovia. That was no, sorry, not working.
So you have to have you have to have done all three. You cannot have been a coach because you've been through this stuff before.
Oh, you mean like you can't be Mary Shelley?
Yeah. So
Shelley didn't do the first one.
Shelley didn't do the first one. Mary did, but I'm going to take Mary out because she's a coach. Yeah. And they've gone through some of this before, and I'm going to even take out Rachel Duncan, still has that status for me because she was the first person that said something about doing a weightlifting class and that she would totally do it online, even if she was the only person.
She's kind of like Black Widow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Totally. Like she's a catalyst, does a lot of stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not the. Anyway, sorry. We could totally nerd out of like, and then trope wise.
You know what too? Like she totally is, because we're going to have this weightlifting seminar in the fall. And it's only going to be for people. It's only going to be in person.
Yeah.
So sorry, Rach, I got to throw you off the
cliff. So she dies, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's a critical character in story development.
Yeah.
But not the protagonist,
Right.
not the antagonist. Like
Yeah.
it's just that I forget there's a term for that character and I can't think. It's it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Kelly and Joe.
Okay.
Kelly and Joe.
Which FYI, that they were mine as well.
Yeah. Like Kelly and Joe, like they've been doing CrossFit for
There's a symmetry.
So Joe's actually Joe's 1 year anniversary was yesterday.
I know. No, today, September 1st. He thinks it's
Today.
Yeah. There's a symmetry in him.
Stupid Joe.
There's a symmetry in him too. They were in the same. Were they in the same foundations class or?
No, Joe. No. Kelly was in foundations with
a month before, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So there's a symmetry to them.
So I feel like Joe actually showed up like because remember he came in like in the middle, kind of.
Yeah, there's like a Captain America and Tony Starkish in him, like in a sense.
True,
there's sort of like there's Kelly, Joe, right?
Yeah.
So there's sort of this like which one. So the funny thing is though, I put Joe in the Tony Stark category and I put Kelly in the Captain America.
See, I would have reversed.
Yeah,
but only because he was at the Naval Academy, like so totally. And she's
but Joe's such a. I love you, Joe. He's such a rule follower. Do you know what? Like and in a good way. Like what's this? What's my what are my bounds here? Like what should I be doing? What should I not
Kelly
be doing?
questions
Everything. And she's and it's like so there's but neither is good or bad. They are just. It's
what they are.
Yeah. So all right, cool. I'm with you. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
So Kelly and Joe, which like from their willingness to, and I don't think they even question because I think they even coming in like Rachel has did the Swolstis with me last summer. Like she's gone through this before.
So I think
not this version.
So if I could redirect,
less
defend why you didn't pick somebody and give.
No. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going. So so they came in with this relative familiarity with a barbell, but not to this sort of level.
Yeah.
And so they came in and just straight up they never asked, so when can I get a barbell or can I get a barbell? Like they took the PVC pipe and they went for it. And I'm sure there was some skepticism there, like what am I going to do with
so in the call to action, there is a requirement or a sense of a refusal of the call.
Mm-hmm.
Like that not that they push back, but that there's a little bit of like Luke, I can't go with you when Obi-Wan Kenobi asks him, like, no. Captain America's kind of refusal of I just want to go fight, but then he finally takes on the bullshit, bond, whatever. And then he realizes like, oh my God, I've missed what I'm really supposed to be doing. Tony Stark's refusal to like stop selling the weapons. And then he finally decides, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so did they ever have sort of that, not refusal of the call, but kind of the moment, was there a moment where you saw them go, this is why I'm doing it? You know what I mean? And it might've been in the summer solstice. It might've been in a WOD.
So I would say that it was in the summer solstice, and I say it was probably after the first just couple classes online when you saw how they looked and felt, and then maybe even talk to them later, how tired they were after using just PVC pipe.
Okay.
But it was almost that kind of like, oh, okay, like this makes sense now. You can do so much with this PVC pipe. Like I said, it was hundreds of reps.
Yeah.
Like a day.
Yeah.
With this PVC pipe. And I think maybe at the beginning it was like, all right, we'll go through this. Like we go through Bergner warm up in class, and then we move on, and you get a little sweaty. But they were like spent like after a workout. And so it was like maybe a day or two later when they were so sore and they were so tired. And then I think it was when we got back in the gym and we actually got back to barbells, and both Joe and Kelly, like the second I saw them was like, we did clean and jerks today. And like, Shelly told me how good I looked, and Jack was saying I was good. And so I think it was, maybe they had something in the back of their mind. They're like, this is good. Like I'm getting in practice, but not until like they actually were able to really put it in practice. And then someone else said, hey, look at this.
So I feel as if where I saw the moment when they, we could call it atonement, right? That is when Kelly cued Joe. I forget, it was either Saturday WOD or I forget. She was sitting outside in the chair watching him, and she said it very quietly and just very direct to him and said, Joe, lift with your legs. use your legs, not your arms, which is your cue, right?
Yep.
And so if you think about it, your character is mentor. You're Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're whatever. Like there's always the mentor character, and the mentor can shapeshift into becoming the villain, can become the obstacle, can be whatever. But you're no longer needed. Right. At some point, that the mentor character is required. It's actually the Yoda moment at the end when he says the greatest challenge of any master is letting go, realizing when the student has surpassed you and getting out of the way. Yeah. And so she took your cue and said it to him in a way that landed, and both of them had this like, oh moment. And now becomes the next challenge of like, what do they do with it? Yeah. Because now the real struggle begins of like whatever. And so what I would argue is this is also part of your defense of you got to go back to the beginning now. Yeah. You have to, with all of this new knowledge, this is the atonement part that is, it's not over. Atonement doesn't mean that now is the return, because the return puts the hero back into, they're ready to go back into the real world. Right. They're ready to go back to a PVC pipe. Yeah. Because now all of those reps that they were doing before, they had to do those hundreds of reps. They were not wasted reps, right, but they were ineffective, inefficient, bad movement, whatever. Now they know what good movement feels like. And so now of those, let's say they do 1,000 reps, now maybe 300 of them will be good reps. Yeah. Or maybe they got 10 last time. Yeah. And they got to go through the whole journey again.
Oh man, wouldn't they be thrilled if I said the last week of this session
is all just,
we're not PRing, we just put the PVC pipe back in.
This is the
this is where I become the villain.
the end of Endgame, when you just hear the hammer. Yeah. Because what that says is we're going back to the beginning, folks. And so that's where like now they got to go back to the beginning and go with PVC pipe, because they've had, if you know they've had the atonement, they have to have the return. Yeah. And that'll be interesting to see. So again, this is all a thought experiment. It's not real. Yeah. Nor does the hero's journey ever perfectly fit anyone's individual life or individual experience. Yeah. That's why it's myth. That's why it's a trope. Is the idea, like it's a scaffolding, or like it's a formula in which to try to fit. But it happens after the fact. Yeah. Campbell is very specific on that. If you try to create a movie, this is why I think Black Panther is great. I love it. It's an enjoyable movie, but it feels like when they wrote it, they said, okay, we're going to take Black Panther's character and we're going to basically create the movie and put all of these characters into these individual roles. So they painted by numbers, packaged it up, handed you the movie. And it feels like, oh, well, I know what's coming next. Oh, there it is. Oh, I know. The CIA character. Oh, yeah, he fits that role. They all fit a specific role. It feels formulaic. Yeah. What you do with this is after you live the life, right? You went through the experience. You can't recreate that. What you created was, it's a 3-part series. It's a progression of things. Yeah. It fits because basics, medium, advance, we finish with some sort of like, whee, that was fun. Yeah. Then we go over and do it again. What happens in it isn't, you can't craft it or direct it, or it feels crafted and directed. Yeah. But after the fact, you can come back and be like, why did this work? Yeah. Oh, it worked because look. Yeah. And what you'll find, and this is what Campbell says, is over time, what you find is why myths land with societies and why they stick is because inevitably they fit these certain molds. There's some differentiation and different variations, but there's not as much as you would imagine there is. And if you look at Kelly and Joe's experience, it kind of fits this hero's journey across the 3 sessions.
And I'll tell you, like, I do have like this fear, and I'm trying to not put so much emphasis on it, but like, after 15 weeks of this, we'll test our snatch and our clean and jerk.
That they don't PR.
And they don't PR. And I'm trying to drive that home. Like, if you don't PR, I mean, there's so many things that come into play when you're trying to PR that, you may hit it that day, you may not. Like
I thought that was last week. This Sunday?
No, there's 2 weeks left.
Oh, okay. Shoot,
Yeah.
I thought they were done.
That's okay. Like I had a feeling, I was like, I think he thinks we're done. There's 2 weeks left.
Gotcha.
So what I don't, which is funny because I think there was someone thought it was last week was last week. It's like, did I say that?
I think you did.
When?
At one point, I don't know, but I feel like you said it.
Because I may have kept saying last session, and people thought that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Because they've been 3 sessions.
I
forget. Anyway,
doesn't matter.
Anyway, there's 2 weeks left, and so my concern is that, like, look, if they don't PR, whatever. If I can pull up a video from, which I'll dig deep. If I can pull up a video from their PVC pipe week 1 to how that looked week 2 to week 15, like, it's going to look better.
But there's a lesson in that too. The hero often fails.
Yeah.
Right. That most recent 2018 games promo thing, right? Rise to the call or something. It was. It's not that heroes always succeed. It's actually that they fail and that they keep coming. They keep coming back.
Yeah.
And so that's why it makes Captain America and Tony Stark like such good. Yeah. Such not relatable, because they aren't relatable, right? None of us are as smart as Tony Stark, and none of us have gamma radiation modified genetics, aka Captain,
hashtag super serum.
Yeah. Right. Like, and they could never replicate it.
Yeah.
They could never refigure out how to put that together. And so there's a sense of
plus the gamma radiation is Hulk.
Right. But that's what they hit him with. And so Bruce Banner tried to replicate Captain America's.
And that's where
he got something off. Yeah. Right. Or Bruce Banner was predisposed because of his father's exposure, blah, 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 blah. Right. So whatever it is.
That's a separate podcast.
Yeah. But the aspect of they are truly one of a kind.
Yeah.
And so again, it comes back to, you cannot preordain the journey.
Yeah.
You have to live it, and live it with an eye towards, again, the cliche, it is about the journey, not the destination. So when they PR, the PR is not what was important. Mm-hmm. What was important is how they were able to let go of the need for that PR.
Yeah.
This is a very like almost Taoist woo way. Like, the only time you will find awakening is when you stop looking to be awoke or awakened. And that is the hardest thing, trying not to try. And so that would, if you're looking to give them some sort of narrative, it's, the PR doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
And you actually will probably not get a PR if you're shooting for that PR.
Yeah. And I think when I saw that I let them use, we got to the point where I said, okay, you can start using barbells. And everyone grabbed a 15 and or a 25-pound barbell. They didn't even grab like the full-size barbell.
Look at that.
And so it was kind of like okay, cool. Like, they recognize all right, we're just adding a little bit of weight. Like, it's a progression. It's a little bit. Like, they grab the regular size barbell all the time in class, every day. But like this specific class, they recognized and understood the importance of, baby steps.
Yeah.
And so that was good too. So anyway.
Well, cool.
It's some fun. And again, I'm torn, because do I keep it going in some form of fashion? Do I, if part of me wants to wait another 6 months?
Well, I think your idea of the, you got to sometimes you got to let they let Captain America go for a little bit.
Yeah.
They let him kind of go off the radar.
Nomad.
They let him be a little, grow his hair long, get a beard, and then you got to rope him back into the fold.
Yeah.
So, your beard, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's such a great scene.
Yeah, so good.
He's like, looks good.
Cool.
Before he can grab the hammer, he has to. I would really look into that and see, like, let them be on their own for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it's a little bit easier pill to swallow, no pun intended, with the Matrix hero's journey, to go back to the PVC pipe.
Yeah.
And even the PVC pipe being a totem. That's so totems are very prevalent in heroes' journeys too. Right. They're representative. Doctor Strange, it's the thing in which they put the power, because it's too big and too powerful to exist on its own. Mm-hmm. And so that shape, that item, takes the burden.
Yeah.
The PVC takes the burden away from the person. It's hard to be a beginner again.
Yeah.
So let the PVC, blame it on the PVC.
Yeah.
Blame it on the coach.
Yeah.
Let those be the totem things that absolve the individual of having to hold on to their ego. Which makes me
feel very much like Batman, because I'm not the coach that they, what is it?
It's the coach they need.
Yeah. And I can take that.
Yes, you can.
And so it's like,
there you go. Well done.
God, I'm a tortured soul.
Well, because you just said it. You're struggling with it. You want to let them still have the bars, but if you do, you'll have anarchy. You'll be the Joker. You'll be Joker. Yeah. Right? Joker lets everybody do whatever
Joker's cool,
but he lets everybody do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Why? Because in that chaos and that anarchy is power.
Yeah.
And it's unbridled, unhealthy power.
Yeah.
Whereas Batman, there are rules.
Yeah.
The rules are everyone follows the rules except for me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'll be that criminal that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, Batman.
That's good. You're my gratitude. That was good. I needed this.
I was gonna tell you that this is what we're gonna do, but I didn't want to.
I'm glad, because I had something totally different.
And I was waiting. I was hoping you didn't send me an idea, because then I would have felt.
I was like, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Good.
And then we just started talking. So that was awesome. Yeah. So you're my gratitude. Thank you. I needed that.
You're welcome, and you were mine, man. I mean that too. Awesome. Like this summer solstice was, like, that's how you do it. That if anybody is curious, like, how do you run a extra program at a gym that is very specific, that is from soup to nut, start to finish, clarity of vision with a singularity of purpose, you did it, right? There was zero distractions. There was no like, well, we'll also add in da 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 da. No. You knew we are limiting it to this many people. It will be this specific time. It has this specific goal and objective.
Yeah.
Dude, that is the way you do it.
Yeah.
So well done.
I'm already like thinking about all the things I want to do next time that I want to incorporate. That's still like, it's not extra fluff. It's just like, I could definitely do these things that would make them better.
Yeah.
Without it, from the outsider looking in, it wouldn't look that different. To me, I know it would be different, but I know it would be something else that I can offer that would. So anyway, this was fun.
It was. Good. Hey, did you hear about the broom that got hired and lost his job after the first day?
No, I didn't, Jack.
Tell me more. Yeah, he was fired for oversweeping.
Did you hear about the police station that was infested like swarm of flies?
No.
Yeah, they had to call in the SWAT team.
All right, folks. Cool. That was it. Have a great weekend. We will we'll see you for the next stage of your hero's journey here on and off the creek.
Get plenty of sweet.